2020, so yes, we're bringing back Furries After Dark. On this episode, we'll whet our appetite with a closer look at Vore. In my past videos, I've largely glazed over the sexual side of the fandom, and while that might put some parents at ease, I realize I've left out a part of this fandom that is largely misunderstood. Many furries that engage in the more lewd interests that exist in this fandom often have to hide those interests because of the perceived stigma of being associated with those kinks. To combat this, I've decided to begin a series on the more After Dark topics in collaboration with real furries who have these interests, to help demystify and hopefully destigmatize these interests. So let's figure out how some do it for a series on this channel. Some members of the fandom are into what's called Vore. Vore is the idea of eating another character that is self-aware or being eaten yourself. Before we get too far down the maw of this concept, let's get to know our survey responders a little bit better. Of the 40 that responded to the form associated with this video, 73% said that they were into Vore, while 28% might have missed the memo here. Of those who said that they were into Vore, 52% were cisgendered, 28% responded that they were non-binary or gender fluid, and only 17% identified as trans. Breaking it down a bit further, we found that the majority of those who responded were cis male at 41%, while we had very few trans female responses, which really only made up 7% of those who answered and were into Vore. So what draws our fandom into Vore? What makes the idea of eating someone or being eaten so appealing? Before we look at our responses, let's look at Vore more closely as a concept. The full term for what us furries call Vore is actually called vorarophilia, derived from the Latin word vorere, or vorare, I'm not sure, I don't speak Latin, which closely translates to swallow or devour. Vore, as we know today, can be broken into two distinct variations, soft Vore and hard Vore. As soft may imply, this interaction between characters, whether they are furry or not, is often depicted as non-fatal to both parties, and whoever's being consumed has the ability to come back out unharmed. However, hard Vore often involves some degree of digestion, mangling, or fatality. While it's not always depicted as a fatal encounter, whoever's being swallowed certainly isn't coming out with a few battle scars, bruises, or broken limbs. In some cases, those who enjoy that side of the interest refer to a fatal encounter depicted in either art or other mediums as permadeath or permavore. You're not coming back from it. You're dead. So why? Why do some people find this appealing? Well, according to a case study from 2013, Vorarophilia, a case study in masochism and erotic consumption, wow, what a title, it was speculated that one key reason may be linked to sexual masochism, which makes sense given the title of the study. In some situations, a less dominant person may use the depiction of Vore and their character to merge with someone deemed stronger than themselves, or to escape the feeling of loneliness. The same study also found that other variations of the kink sometimes combined with other kinks, leading to very specific scenarios that involved both. Some examples of this were unbirthing or returning to the womb, size differences when combined with micro-macro interests, or in some cases, combining pregnancy fetishes by depicting the child within the womb being much more self-aware than they are in real life. However, that study was done back in 2013, and while it has some excellent information, let's see what our respondents had to say about this one. Of those we asked, only 28% said that they had art of their characters in a Vore scenario, which, given the nature of this interest, seemed a bit peculiar. So we dug a little deeper and found that one of the reasons there were so few is it's furries here we're talking about. Some didn't have the money yet to have their art done. Some planned to get art, but we're saving up. But still, some others weren't sure if they wanted their characters to be portrayed in something that was considered a little more NSFW and genuinely enjoyed art of other characters in that scenario. So that kind of made sense. The most prominent reasons we received from our survey as to why people were really into Vore were dominance and control, connection with the person who is eating you, or, vice versa, and Moz. Moz was a big one. Each of these segments made up 21% of the responses, each on their own, and made up for a combined 63% of all reasons cited. Less common at 7% each respectively, some cited pregnancy, genuine enjoyment of eating in general, and genuine fascination with art as reasons they developed an interest in Vore. Almost overwhelmingly, E621 was largely referenced as a discovery point, which makes sense. This is something that you typically enjoy more in an art or visual medium that is not IRL, because that's probably illegal. In one very interesting case, a user cited the old Cinnamon Toast Crunch commercial as how they got into Vore, which I guess makes sense because the little cereal guys are self-aware, so I guess that is technically Vore, and I kinda like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like in past videos, we gave the participants the option to remain anonymous or show their name, as well as submit a video about why they had an interest in Vore. Here are just a few of the responses that we received.
Hello, this is the editor. Ragehound didn't record this part, so enjoy this text-to-speech portion that I put together from my favorite responses. There are 41 in total, but of course I can't use them all without turning this video into an epic 1-hour-long documentary. Not even Netflix has that kind of budget. Enjoy. Love Drak and the Fox. What about Vore appeals to you? Anonymous, Ma's teeth and the idea of being helpless. Anonymous, just eating and having someone inside you. That's Dwarf Cassie, non-binary, the fact you can be so close to someone in both a physical and emotional sense is so appealing, especially since I'm not one for lewd. It still feels nice to be able to love the warm feeling inside, but Ma's and bellies are so appealing. Mostly the thought of being inside feels so nice. How did you discover Vore? Anonymous, DeviantArt. Anonymous. A random artist was following my account and I decided to check out their gallery. At first, I had no idea what it was, but thought it was so random but interesting. Later I learned that it was called Vore. That's Dwarf Cassie, being very curious on DeviantArt and Pure Affinity. I was confused about why I enjoyed the idea of being eaten or eating others, but the more I got involved in communities, I started to enjoy it for a closer, sensual connection. Are there any terms associated with Vore your average person might not know? If so, what is one? Please only describe one. Anonymous. Permadeath. Permanent death. Anonymous. My experience with Vore is low, so I have no idea, haha. That's Dwarf Cassie, and Asoma. Everyone normally thinks of Vore as, oh no, I'm going to die and get digested, a horrible painful death. For me, I just love the idea of being hugged inside a belly and being protected by someone I trust most. It means safe Vore, since the prey inside doesn't get digested or harmed. There's reformation and absorption, but I'll keep that aside. I just enjoy the gurgling sounds and squishy warmth kneading against me while being next to someone in the closest way possible.
I'd like to personally thank everyone who helped me learn more about Vore and better understand why some of y'all are into it. In our next video, we'll be looking at inflation and why some people have a bit of an affinity for pool toys or get puffed up at the idea of being squeaky. Until our next video, bye!